Good morning, and thank you for joining us for the Future Forward Summit kickoff session on the horizon trends for 2023. My name is Gary DeHart. Whoop, I'm not sharing a screen right now, am I? Come on, you guys are supposed to be looking out for me here. Hold on, let me get a screen up. How about now?
That's good.
Be able to see it now. All right. Except that's the end of the presentation. That doesn't help. Who's driving this bus? Okay, almost there. That's me. So I'm Gary DeHart, host of this summit, host of the Accounting Insiders podcast and publisher of Insightful Accounting and Tax Practice News. We do have a rock star panel today with Liz Scott, who many of you I'm sure know really well. She's the founder and CEO of Accounting Lifeline, the owner of Liz Scott Consulting LLC, and the co-host of the QB Appy Hour with Liz and Heather. And we also have Esther Friedberg Karp, founder and CEO of EFK CompuBooks Inc. She's an advanced certified pro advisor in 3 countries, a top 100 pro advisor 2015 through 2021, and a member of the Trainer Writers Network. Liz and they're both also contribute to Insightful Accountant as well and help us out on some other webinars throughout the year. Then we have David Joseph, who is a co-founder of Davo by Avalara, the Simplified Sales Tax Evangelist. David, you're going to have to tell us what that is. I wasn't exactly sure what that one was. Then entrepreneur who founded Real-Time Sales Tax Management System, and a successful chef and a classically trained musician, a man of many talents. So look forward to hearing more about all those things. So before we dive in, we do have a couple of housekeeping items. CPE is available for this session. You do have to answer at least 3 of the polls to be in the session for 50 minutes to be qualified to receive your CPE, and it will be sent to you within 24 hours after this session has ended. If you have any questions, we would like to ask you to put them into the questions panel, and a link to the recording will be sent to you in an email after this. But you can also always find all of the recordings on our YouTube channel. And I will drop that link into the chat as well. And I will also drop in a copy of this presentation into the chat before we close out. And so, overview, what are we talking about today? So our panelists are going to help you identify some new technology trends in the profession, describe some security risks to consider as you work with clients, with a remote team, a hybrid team, as well as members of your own team, and then recognize trends that you should be aware of in order to grow your firm and optimize operations. And then one last thing I did want to mention, we have had some requests previously about adding closed caption, and that you should be able to click on, I'm not exactly sure what you're seeing as an attendee, but if you see like a more button, I was able to see it on my phone, but I haven't been able to log in on a computer, but you should see in your panel, either it's going to say more, or it's going to be like the 3 buttons, the 3 horizontal dots. If you click on that, you should be able to hit, you should see an icon for closed captioning, which should allow you to see that on your screen. If you need that and you're not able to see that, let me know, just so we can do some more work and try to make that happen in future sessions. So
Gary, I see a show captions button at the bottom of my panel, like right across the bottom.
Okay, great. Yeah, because I see it on my screen. So everybody should be able to see that. So if you need captions, or if you want captions, go ahead and click that on yours. So I'm going to get a poll question out here first before we get too far into this. And so what are your clients' most common barriers to using more back office apps to automate business processes? POS system doesn't support apps, not enough time to implement, too many options, hard to understand what to choose, unaware of how the apps can create efficiency, or is it a cost issue, or is it just not a priority? Give about 10 seconds to log your answers, and then we'll go ahead and we'll dive into the content here. And remember, if you want CPE, you need to participate in 3 of the polling questions. All right, we'll close this out in about 5 more seconds. 3, 2, and 1. Thank you. And I will share that so our panelists can see that, see what just Liz, what do you think? Is that about the answers you were expecting?
Too many options. I mean, that one
Yeah.
doesn't surprise us. Too hard to figure out which ones to choose.
Yeah, forest and
Sounds
trees. Yeah.
Across the board. All righty. Great. So, well, slide's not advancing. Oh, too many. Technology. So we're talking about a shift in focus of technology. So Liz, or actually we'll let anybody jump in this one. So when you guys were putting this together, what's ultimately what is that shift in technology that we're experiencing as a profession?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is we all need it. So we've gotten over that hump, and now it's a matter of how do we identify the needs and what are all the technology options that are out there. I mean, I think that polling question gave us a pretty good slice of how people are feeling, that there's so much technology, there's so much information out there that, how do you digest it? So I think that, things like this, groups that you get together and you talk about the technology, whenever you think about trends that are out there, what's available, I think it's really important to be sharing across. And, the other thing that comes to mind is, it updates constantly. So even if you are using an app and haven't paid attention to recently the updates, those are all areas to focus.
That's a great point, Liz. Also, I think that the big thing here is just like we're on a Zoom call, everything is collaborative and being done in real time. And we're looking for technology to prevent spikes in workload and busy season, that type of thing. We want to be able to have things updated continuously without having stress on the business owner or the accounting professional.
Yeah, just to add on to that, I think you have to look at this from 2 viewpoints. The viewpoint of the tax preparer, the financial side of it, and the viewpoint of the merchant. And the merchant, has multiple things going on, and how are they leveraging technology? And when I talk with merchants, I always tell them, look, divide your business at the counter where the cash register sits. On one side of that cash register is the front door, and there are multiple apps and services that service your customers. Think customer loyalty, discounts, all of these things that are on the front door side, customer facing. But then on the other side of that cash register, on the other side of that counter is the back door and the back office. And within the back office, they're really, you have certain tasks that have to be done. Essentially, you have employees to be hired, employees to be scheduled, employees to be paid. You have accounting to be taken care of. You have sales tax to be taken care of. But it's really not, you don't have 1,000 tasks on the back office side. And the majority of those tasks can now be automated through technology. And this is an education process for merchants. And I think the people we're talking to, the folks we're talking with here, have this sort of obligation to start educating them. Don't worry about the customer loyalty side of things. That's being sold to them. And most merchants are very savvy about this. What should we be using? DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub, but they don't understand how to organize it on the backside to make it efficient.
And so Esther and Liz, as practitioners, does that just open up a whole world of opportunity for you and working with your clients, kind of what David was just talking about? You've got all this stuff that's just coming at your clients on a daily basis. And I think, as you may have said earlier, that we don't know what to do, or even, I guess it was the poll question, right? It's overwhelming, right? So for the professionals, the accounting professionals, seems like it's wide open opportunities to help your clients.
Well, yeah, that is true, Gary. But some clients, yes, we want to guide them to a particular tech stack that's going to make their lives, and by consequence, our lives, easier. That's true. But then there are going to be some clients that are kind of old school, and they're just they'll present friction. They don't want to. So for instance, a couple of weeks ago, I had an old bookkeeping client of mine. I own 50% of a bookkeeping firm on the side. And he called me up and he said, what would you charge? Like that was his very first question. I thought, oh, crumb. And on top of that, yes, he's moved to QuickBooks Online. I thought, oh, that's great. But he just wanted to send a shoebox, basically, the equivalent of a shoebox of information once a month. I said, that's not our thing. That's not our jam. And I couldn't convince him otherwise. So, there are some clients that you can't hold by the hand and take along with you on that journey. And those are the ones that are just not part of our demographic. What about you, Liz?
I think about cloud-based accounting software. When I turned the corner to QuickBooks Online, I didn't go back. And I agree that it's not for everybody, but whenever I'm connecting all of the apps, which is really my area of specialty, I want to be able to work in an online program, and other online programs are going to talk to a cloud-based program software also. So immediately, once you move to the cloud, you're more efficient. And the other piece of it that's important for me is the collaboration. I don't want to be somebody who's keeping my client in the dark. They can't make really good decisions. And so, it's okay to not know everything. And that's really the place that I had started in this discovery with a client. And I feel like, we're continually in this place of discovery because the data is changing constantly and the abilities are changing constantly. So I think that the more that you're able to be in this team approach and have a cloud type of solution in order to foster that team approach, I'm all in.
Yeah, interesting. I had an accountant reach out to me a couple of weeks ago after I met his client at a trade show. And he told me, said, I used to be the accountant for Windows on the World at the Trade Center and big restaurants in New York. I worked in Atlantic City and, I did all the tax returns. And I was just doing a tax return, the sales tax return for this client in Pennsylvania. It took me 4 hours. And he was telling me they have Square for their point of sale system. They have a separate online ordering, so people can order and pick up at the cafe, called Track, which I'd never heard of. They do catering, which they use QuickBooks Online for, and then they have QuickBooks for their accounting, QuickBooks Online for their accounting package. And at the end of the conversation, we basically agreed Square was their record of sale and everything needed to flow through Square. Download an app to create the invoice in Square so that Square was where the sales were taking place, and have all of that tie in through Shogo to QuickBooks Online. And I just find, that 9 times out of 10, merchants are great at running their business and they kind of piecemeal things together. But then they need someone on the outside to come in and say, look, this is so inefficient. I can do this for you, but you're paying me for 4 hours of time, when we can actually rejigger this, set it up this way, and I can automate this. It's going to cost you far, far less. And this is the tech stack, Liz, is exactly what you said, that needs to be created to create this efficiency within the business. And business owners, face it, did not go into business to do this. They went into business to sell croissants and sell shoes and sell dresses and whatever they are. And the back office is where they need to have efficiency.
That's definitely the area that they need help.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to go off script a little bit here. This is where my wife always gets concerned. But how does a person like a Liz or an Esther, how do you balance those two worlds, right? Of being the accounting professional, right? I'm working your books, I'm giving you guidance, I'm advising like we've been told to do for the past 15 years, advisory. But how easy is it to do both? How can I live in both worlds and be really good at both?
Well, I'd love to take this one because I feel passionate about it. I feel like what's happened in our bookkeeping accounting industry is that people have started to niche. And, it doesn't mean in an industry that you're niching, but sometimes in a in an area of expertise. So for me, I'm way more interested in connecting apps and maintaining apps and needs analysis for what kind of apps do you need, and then the maintenance that you were talking about, David. I'm way more interested in that than I am in managing a bookkeeping or accounting firm. So I don't think that everybody can be great at all of it because you're spread way too thin. And so I do feel like we're starting to specialize, like you go to a doctor and you see maybe an oncologist, or you're going to a gastrointestinal doctor. I mean, there's areas of focus. And that's where I think, again, this team approach is really important. So having cohorts to be able to reach out to people for expertise.
Yeah,
Well-
I would totally. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Esther.
Go
Well,
ahead, David.
Well, I would just sort of, Davo, I think, is kind of like the perfect example of this. That for those of you who aren't familiar, Davo, Gary, you asked earlier, sales tax evangelist. I'm about simplicity. I owned a restaurant. I was a chef owner. Someone described the restaurant business as the business of 1,000 details. And this is so true. You have 1,000 details to deal with every single day as an owner. And sales tax was just a thorn in on my backside constantly. And one day I walked out of the kitchen and I said, why can't someone do our sales tax the way ADP does our payroll? Why has somebody not figured out how to simplify this? When my business was set up, my accountant said to me, I got you a OneWrite system. For those of you who remember OneWrite,
Oh my God.
Okay. I got you your OneWrite book and checks. Claire's going to be your bookkeeper. She'll be in on Mondays and Thursdays. I signed you up for ADP. It'll be called in every week on Thursdays. And what he should have said is, and I signed you up for Davo to automate your sales tax. Sales tax was just this pain point for us constantly. And Davo does one task really, really well. And we are the leader in this for brick and mortar. Like Avalara is the leader in this for e-commerce. It's got a very focused solution. Or a solution to a very focused problem. And what I hear in the world out there, at MureTech, multi-unit technology show, people were saying, when you look at applications, you have to look at what is the functionality and what is the ROI? What is it going to cost me and what problem is it going to solve? And does it actually save me and create efficiency, or does it create more work? And there are so many apps out there. And this is the frustration, I think, for tax pros and for businesses, is there are so many apps that try to do too much. They're MVPs, minimal viable products. They're not ready for prime time, and you spend more time trying to unravel something. But find the ones that really solve a problem and create ROI for the business. So I think that this is really the essence of what we're talking about here.
So David, just as an aside, you and I are going to have to talk about the restaurant business at some point when I see you at Connect. But I agree with what you said and what Liz said as well. Is that there, we do specialize, and I've turned away business because there are clients that were not in my niche. I mean, I do multi-currency, I do international stuff, and if a client doesn't really appreciate what it is that we do, and they just think that we're a commodity, then that's not my type of client. And if they're looking at these apps as expenses as opposed to investments, that's not my type of client either.
And so, do you refer? Do you have like a list of your preferred people that are like your first go-tos?
I do, unless I think it's going to be a really stinky client and there's just nobody I hate enough to refer them to them.
I second that one. Go fish.
Yeah.
That's
Someone said to me a couple months ago, I was talking with one of our POS, our point of sale partners, and he said, 4 or 5 years ago, if you walked into a merchant and you said to him, I have a cloud-based POS system, they looked at you and they were like, huh, what? And you had to go through this whole thing, it's in the cloud and it's like your phone and it's just a cash register, but you have these apps. If you're a pizza restaurant, you have delivery, and if you're a hair salon, you have scheduling. And today you walk into a merchant to sell them a cloud POS, and they're like, the first thing that they say are, oh, who are your partners? What applications are integrated with you? And this is actually how a lot of POSs have come to Davo saying, we're losing sales because we don't have you as an integration partner. We need this. And so there's been a huge sea change on the merchant side looking for solutions. Unfortunately, they're looking for the majority of solutions they're looking for are on the front door side of things, not on the back side of things. And this is the opportunity for the tax professional to say, let's create efficiencies over here and let you concentrate more on the front door and less on the back door of the business.
Good. And so we're going to pivot a little bit and go to, and you talked about collaboration earlier, Liz. So Esther, about what was it, 3 months ago? I can't remember when this happened.
Oh
3
my
months
God.
ago,
Okay.
yeah,
It
we
was
were scheduled for a
July.
call. Oh gosh, was
Yeah.
it July? Time
It
does.
was, yes, it was, we got back, Brian and I got back from a delayed honeymoon in July on a Thursday. The very next day in Friday, Rogers, which is one of the main communications provider, internet and whatever in Canada, it went down completely. And never mind that there was no TV, there was no internet, there was no cell phone, there was nothing. And we were just basically twiddling our thumbs. It was awful. And I thought, oh my God, this is like a single point of failure. I can't let this happen to myself again. I need a backup internet. Everyone does.
So what did you do?
Well, nothing yet, because I was looking at Elon Musk's thing. What's it called? What's it called?
Skylink.
Thank you. So I was looking at that, which is coming to my neighborhood very soon. But I'm when I get back from Connect, I'm actually going to do something more immediate than that.
There you go. Liz, has that come across your plate as a something you need to be working on or talking to clients about?
The multiple backups for internet connections, is that the
Yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I have a couple of options that is in our house. So what we do is we have our internet, of course, that's directly connected and issued by the Cox provider. The other thing that we've done is we have a Wi-Fi tower that sits in our house and that's issued by our phones service. And so it's actually faster than our wired internet connection. So go figure. So one of the things that will happen is my kids come home and they'll figure out the speed on which internet provider and they'll tag into that.
Yeah,
It's
interesting.
like $50 a month for this little hotspot.
How much?
$50 a month. It's like a
Wow.
T-Mobile little hub.
Yeah, I find that I go back and forth between Wi-Fi and using my phone as a hotspot, depending on where I am. So interesting. I just a little bit within this topic, but within collaboration and communication. I just hosted a roundtable at the Emerging Franchise Show in Nashville a couple of weeks ago, and it was about building a tech stack. And we had at the table, you get. It's kind of like speed dating. People move around from table to table over the time, but we had people who came from franchises with 150 locations, have been in the business forever, and we have people who have never done anything in franchising, are just starting. And the emerging theme, really interesting, was communication and communicating between the franchisor and the franchisee. And what are people using to communicate? And it was really interesting, get away from email, and what a lot of them are using Facebook is their communication tool. And one of the bigger places said, why aren't you using Slack? And we use Slack all the time in our business. My thought to you is create a Slack channel for your clients. You can get Slack for free at the very low end. Create a Slack channel for your clients so you're not buried in email. If they have a quick question, you have a quick question for them. Get them to download this. There is lots of technology out there that is free. Slack is one of them. Homebase, if you are not familiar with Homebase, it's a scheduling app. They have a free version. Davo has talked about a free version. We're not going to offer one. It's been put aside, but there are many apps out there that are free, and just in the collaboration and communication realm, this could be a really good service to provide your clients. So.
Super. One other question, and this may come up further down the road in our presentation here, but going back to cloud accounting software, and that is, are you still, and this is primarily Liz and Esther, are you still running into people saying, oh, I don't trust the cloud. I don't, it's not as secure. I like my desktop. What are the conversations you're having around that?
2 years ago, I would have said, yeah, I'm still getting that. But I haven't had anybody since COVID. COVID has taught a lesson to a lot of people. And so I would say not anymore. How about you, Liz?
I think the conversation in my area has changed because what I feel like now is most important is the security. So what are you doing as an app provider for security? What are you doing as a practitioner about security? How locked down are your workers? I think that if we think about threats, I think that cyber threats are hypercritical. So that's a hygiene that in our firm we go through and we make sure that C drives aren't used. There's several things that we do. So I don't think so much the conversation is it safe? It's more of, okay, we're all using it. So we've kind of moved past that concept, but now it's how do I make sure that the work that I'm doing and the access that I'm allowing is now secure?
And then do you work with your clients on that as well?
Yeah, I think that it's super important. You were talking about, David, the Slack conversations. I think that any type of Slack or Teams or whatever it is that the communication is with the client, any way that they're sharing documents, I think all of that needs to be encrypted. I think that we had one client that was like, I'm going to email you everything. And I kid you not, she got a virus right after this whole conversation and wanting to debate on whether or not it was a bad idea to send financial information back and forth, and credentials is, the thing that she was trying to send back and forth. And right after that, because of her getting a virus, it changed her tune. And she was more willing to start thinking about using a portal for submitting sensitive information and moving over into a encrypted communication like Teams and chat, those kinds of tools.
Got it. All right, so let's bounce over to just the topic of data analytics and forecasting. Again, looking at trends, looking at opportunities for the profession for practitioners to grow the business. So data analytics and forecasting tools, there's a ton of them out there. Even QBO even has its own that are pretty strong. What are you, Esther and Liz, are you guys using data forecasting part of what you do with clients? Or, because I certainly see the importance of it from my side.
Liz, why don't you take it?
Okay, I'd love to. So as far as, being able to have the compliance of the bookkeeping, that need is being met by most firms, but the need for them being able to take that data and do things with it. I think that COVID taught us that. I think that COVID brought all of my clients around into this idea of, yes, we want to have those monthly meetings. Yes, we want to be able to understand cash flow. Whenever I'm thinking about creating budgets, it's like, how can you survive another day if you don't know what it costs to run your business? So what do you need as bare minimums? What do you need in order to be able to bust into new income streams? You've got to be able to create these types of forecasts. And there's lots of different tools that are out there. I've got some of my favorites that I really like to go to. And Quivinci is definitely by far one of those tools that I think has a lot of versatility. You can use it in Excel, you can use it online, you can create pivot tables, it's got templates. Flow. There's another one that I really enjoy that's online, and Genius Sheets. There's several of these tools that are now available that if you're a Google user or if you're an Excel user, whatever it is, or if you just want to stay in the app, there's a lot of options that are out there. And I see a big time need for it.
Yeah, we've been creating some custom reports for our clients. A lot of our clients are multiple currencies, and that some of these cash flow apps don't work with multi-currency. So we're struggling with that. So we've been creating some custom reports for our clients having to do with cash flow and budgeting.
And then what do you create those in?
So I have a database guru, and he does things usually in QXL using that. So it's customized that way.
Got it. And so David, Liz touched on, do you have enough cash to open your doors tomorrow, right? And I think that's a large part of what you and what Davo, what you're doing, right, is helping these, I think, restaurants primarily, but other retailers ensure that they don't get some surprise at the end of I don't know if it's the end of the week or the end of the month, whatever the time frame is. But I know when we were talking before, you had some thoughts on that, kind of the client side challenges.
Yeah, I'm famous around Davo and now Avalara for saying it's all about the money. In small businesses, they revolve around cash flow, rent on the first, payroll every 2 weeks, and the floating date of sales tax. And sales tax is kind of the one that nobody takes into account. They forget about it. You could be a monthly, you could be a quarterly. And the big struggle for small businesses is just managing cash. They're not, they look at their bank account and see how much money is in it. Do I have enough money to make payroll this week? And that's not really a great way to run your bank account is not a measure of how well your business is doing. It's like what we say. And so managing sales tax on a daily basis, that's what Davo does. But we really break analytics down to that small bite for merchants, and managing cash for them. My take that I hear from retailers, Davo does have a focus on restaurant because there's no e-commerce involved with it. There's no nexus issues. Nobody's shipping a cup of coffee across the state line. And about 60% of our customers are in the food service business. But the big challenge to me in the data analytics for restaurants are these third-party apps, Grubhub, DoorDash, Uber Eats. And this is really for the tax person, understanding how these apps work in your particular marketplace. Is the DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub, are they a marketplace facilitator? Are they collecting the tax and remitting it? Or are they collecting the tax and sending it to the merchant to remit it? And this can vary app to app, state to state. And so having that understanding, but this is all data analytics and looking at sales reports and looking at dashboards for the apps, and unraveling this. And Davo's very good at this and very good at helping tax professionals. This sort of comes back to leveraging your partners. What is the ROI? Is this a partner I can work with? A third-party app that I can work with, am I going to be able to get in touch with them? What kind of service do they have? Is it chat only? For people who are talking to POS companies, this is really important. If you work with Square, there is no live support at Square. Square is chat only, or email. Clover has online support. Some of the bigger POS, Lightspeed, Toast, have live support. So again, ROI with your partners and looking at that and how can they help you with data and managing data and using the tools within the POS systems.
Esther or Liz, comments on that before we bounce to the next?
No, it's something David said. I don't know if it was yesterday or whatever. You were talking about the fact that as you collect sales tax, it gives business owners a false sense of security or liquidity, that they've got all this money in the bank, not realizing that they've got to pay sales tax in a month, or if they do it every quarter, then it's even worse of a false sense of liquidity. So yeah, it can really make people go the wrong way and start spending money that they don't really have.
Yeah, I call it the system designed to fail. It's a system that doesn't work for anybody. Doesn't work for the state, doesn't work for merchants, doesn't work for the public. It really is a system designed to fail.
So
Davo fixes it.
Yeah. So even more important for accounting professionals to be, in the ear of their clients, that advisory, right? Here's another advisory opportunity.
Absolutely. Yeah. Even for the people selling point of sale systems, the big move over to the cloud, every time you touch the screen on a point of sale, it's being recorded, and the question, the old school merchants, how do I get my cash sales out of my point of sale? They used to, when you had a tape and you had a regular old off the shelf cash register, it was easy. And now, you know, how do I get my cash sales out of my point of sale? I tell them the answer is really simple. Don't put them in. You know, COVID again has changed a lot of that. Cash sales are a minimal amount of retail sales today. I think I saw this data the other day, something like it's up to like 94% of retail sales are now electronic. You know, the cash is a very small percentage. So,
you know, so let me jump off of that, because I think that that's a huge area of conversation. Most sales are digital, and when we think about our clients not understanding their forecast or understanding what their liquidity is, I think that that's where they fail. So that's where I do believe that Davos is very unique in the sense that it's, and I don't know if you've kind of shared what it does, but it's calculating the sales tax, and then it's also pulling aside those dollars and to hold them. So that way the business doesn't feel like they've got that cash to spend. Because I know a lot of my clients, whenever they're not being due diligent and really looking at cash flow, and they're not paying attention, all they're looking at is the bank balance. And they see that bank balance and they think, okay, I've got dollars to spend. But if you're pulling aside that sales tax and they're not thinking about that as available dollars, that helps them, because they're not going to overspend what they've got available. Chances are they're going to spend exactly what they've got available.
right. It comes back to my initial modus operandi of Davo. Why can't someone do for sales tax what ADP does for payroll? We were never late on payroll taxes because ADP took the money out of our account and they held it and they filed and paid our payroll for us. And this is what Davo does. It looks at the data from the point of sale, whether it's Square, Clover, Toast, doesn't matter, from the point of sale where the tax calculation happens. At the end of every day, using the transactional data, Davo reaches into the merchant's bank account. We reach right into their bank account and we take the sales tax money out of their account and we put it into Davo's tax holding account. Interestingly, when Davo was acquired by Avalara, Scott McFarlane, the founder of Avalara, said, you know, we thought about this, but we never had the guts to actually reach into a merchant's bank account and take the money out of it. You know, so, you know, hands up to you guys for doing that. And I was like, it comes back to what I just said. It's all about the money. The number one reason that merchants sign up for Davo is because we take the money every day. We put the money aside daily. Filing the return is not that hard. It's the cash management. And this is the biggest challenge for small businesses, managing the cash. How much money do I have in the bank? I have payroll coming up. I have rent coming up. At some point in time during the year, if you look at a calendar, if you do a biweekly payroll and sales tax are going to come due on the same day. And if you are not prepared for that, you are in trouble. You're going to have to make a decision. Do I make payroll or do I pay my sales tax? And they're going to pay payroll because they want their employees to show up.
Very true.
And then the snowball continues, right?
Oh, absolutely. Because, you know, you missed the sales tax. Sales tax is a leading contributor to new business failures. And I've had investors say to me, that's BS. That is not true. And I'm like, oh, absolutely, it's true. Think about this. You have a business that misses a $4,000 tax payment once a month at a 25% penalty. They now owe $5,000. They go to the next month. They miss that one. That's $9,000. You're making 8 cents on the dollar in a restaurant. 8 cents. Okay, we'll call it 10 cents on the dollar. We'll be really generous and say you're doing great. 10 cents on the dollar and you owe $9,000. Do the math. How long is your profit going to have to go to just paying back sales tax? You're already on the slippery slope of failure. So
I want to keep us moving forward here. So I'm going to actually combine the next 3 slides into, so we teed up to talk about digital transformation, AI, its impact, which really leads to a continuous accounting culture. And so, Esther, you want to touch base on continuous accounting culture?
Well, sure. I mean, it's the polar opposite of the shoebox client, the once a month thing, or God forbid, the once a year thing, right? Where you've got all these spikes of workload. And this way, as Liz said, you're able to help your client make decisions in a more timely fashion because all the books are up to date all the time. You've got accurate data pretty much all the way through the day, the week, the month, the year. So it's, this is a completely different mindset where you don't have stacks of credit card slips that have to be entered on your desk, and you're behind on that, and therefore you're behind on your reconciliations, you're behind on your reports, and you're behind on sales tax or whatever else. So this is like I said, it's just a complete paradigm shift. And it also reduces the stress on any external accounting professional that the business has as well, because everything is kind of just even keel all the way through the year.
Liz, you have any other thoughts on that?
I love the way that Esther just put that. I think that she's 100% correct. So it's all about that relationship that you have ongoing instead of just that write-up type client that used to exist. I think that we've all agreed that that wasn't beneficial to anybody. And holding data from your client isn't beneficial to anybody. It doesn't make you the expert. It doesn't make you all knowing. It just keeps your client in the dark. So I agree that the elimination of stress is big time. And, even if you're not somebody who's jumping into this advisory role, it's okay to just say all you're doing is just talking through or sharing, or however you want to verbalize it to make it a comfortable terminology for you. The importance is just to continue to move towards this collaboration. And
part of that is cloud apps, right? So Liz, I'm going to throw this next. You guys really built this out really well. So let's talk about cloud apps, and the next slide talks about building tech stacks, and can you really make your clients use your tech stack? So as practitioners, what does that look like? Those two things, again, cloud apps, and can you make your clients use your tech stack?
So those two combinations of topics, I think that, apps, we go back to that beginning conversation whenever David was talking about efficiency. It's one of those that I've done app consulting for quite a long time. The trouble is finding these apps that don't always talk to each other. And then you have this siloed amount of data that doesn't go anywhere else. And then you have a lack of efficiency because maybe you have a great deal of data here, but it's not getting out of that silo. So whenever I'm thinking about the app stacks that you were kind of talking about next, is I want to be able to have apps that do talk to each other. So, as somebody who enjoys working with developers, that's one of those conversations that I'm constantly having is, okay, what do you integrate with? What are you currently allowing that data to flow through? And, ultimately, if we've got some type of sales channel that's happening here, how are we going to get that information over into the accounting solution? Or if we've got some type of inventory that's happening, how are we accounting for that over inside of QuickBooks? So, that's the need for being able to create these app stacks that do relate to each other and share information. And can you force a client into using a particular app stack or a particular app? And my answer to that is it really comes back to how passionate are you about that app. So if it's a solution that you feel like is best in class and you don't want to go with any other solution, or maybe you've tried other solutions and they're very half effort, then I think that it is your obligation to say no to that. And kind of like what Esther was saying earlier is that she said no to that client. Well, that's the right choice, because if you know it's going to be a fail, you don't want that engagement, nor do you want that for that human in that business.
Absolutely. And it also requiring a certain tech stack that you've evaluated to be best in class can enable your firm to concentrate on its core competencies and remove those, I'll call them PETA clients. I guess people know what that acronym stands for. And because the clients who decline to conform will likely have ongoing crises as a result, and will likely balk at the bill that they get, that you're charging them, that you're going to charge them for receiving that extra attention and work that they require because they didn't jump on board. So they're just not the right client for you. And I realize if you're in the business and you're new to the business and you want to take on any client because you need the business, eventually after a time, you'll realize that those are not your clients and a better client will come along.
Yeah, and you have to be comfortable saying no, right?
Yes.
And you have to be able to be in a position to be able to say no. So
Correct.
and niche might be a way, technology might be a way, many ways to get to there. So we're going to roll over into data security. I do have a poll question for that. Make sure I get the right one here. And that question is.
Yeah, this is our second poll question, right?
That is correct. Yep. So which of these security tools do you use in your firm? You can choose all that apply: two-factor authentication, multi-factor authentication, cyber insurance, password managers, other, or none of the above. So leave this open for about 10 seconds. Again, if you need the CPE, you need to participate in 3 poll questions. I think that's all we have. I think we only have 3. So make sure you get them all. We'll close it out in about 5 more seconds. So if you need the CPE, now's your time. All right, here we go. 3, 2, and 1. Two-factor authentication was about 81%. Again, people could answer multiple questions, or multiple options. So two-factor authentication was number 1, password manager number 2, multi-factor number 3, and cyber insurance was number 4, then some others. And Esther, I think you have some firsthand experience on password manager. Is that correct?
Yeah, the last time that I was on a Future Forward event, we were talking about password managers, and I was probably one of the only people on the panel that wasn't using it, and I felt like an idiot. I finally last month got LastPass. And I'm thinking, I'm just kicking myself and slapping my full forehead like, oh, like what took me so long? It is amazing. It's like I discovered America. It is amazing. I mean, you can also store things like your credit card numbers and your driver's license number and like all, all kinds of stuff like that in there. And I'm thinking, what the heck took me so long? It has changed. It has certainly speeded up how I work just because it's so much easier to log into all the various websites that I have to log into. And I feel really a lot more secure.
I have to 100% agree. LastPass is what I use as well. And it also has a ton of integrations. And like you said, it has a ton of options for what kinds of data are you adding. So credit card or autofill. But I have to tell you, I turn off all of my Google request to store data. I don't put it inside of Google ever. And, it's one of those requirements too, that on my Teams computers, that's one of the requirements, is that every single one of their browser users has that turned off.
That is great. And another thing I understand that you can do with LastPass is you can share your login with somebody without revealing your password, which is incredible. Like, again, like I'm sure I'm sure most of the people here know that. And I'm like, late on, I'm late to the party.
Well, you're in the party. That's
right.
That's where you're at. It is a good one. And, somebody who's not familiar with it, we use the version of LastPass that also allows our team members to have their own personal LastPass accounts too. Because once you use it, then you're going to want to use it for your, personal devices. You're going to want to, also put personal information in there. So I encourage everybody to look at the business plans. It's not very expensive and it does quite a bit. It also integrates with Microsoft. There's quite a few options as far as LastPass goes. Not knocking any of these other options.
So David, what about you guys? What you're with a massive IT firm, right, or a tech firm, and what's Avalara's position on password managers?
I mean,
tools.
Avalara has their whole internal security. They use Okta. They're protocols for password updates. Davo's biggest struggle with passwords is just, we have our own internal systems. The Davo work engine has been totally built internally. It's all bank level security. We manage a lot of data, a lot of passwords for our merchants, whether it's state websites or banking information. So we don't use any of these internally. So
Gotcha.
as far as our logins, I follow the corporate protocols. That's about as far as I get with it. So
Okay.
it's outside my realm of expertise for sure. I do what they tell me.
Nice being told what to do sometimes.
Yep.
All right, and I'm going to bounce back to two-factor and multi-factor authentication because we skipped over that getting into the password. And not sure which of you want to take this one on. Does anybody have a particular passion about it?
I'm just starting to play around with the LastPass authenticator, so I don't really have much to say because I'm like new to this. But that's what I'm trying out right now.
So a lot of the banks that our clients work with, they require you to send a text code somewhere. And so what we have is our virtual phone line is the place that all of those text codes go to. We have only 2 scenarios where we're not able to get those text codes to go to a virtual phone line. And so instead we've got it going to a grouped email. So we can all see it, but the goal is again, collaboration. And so we don't want any of those codes going to any one person's phone. And Vonage is the solution that we use for our virtual phone line. And so we're able to send all of those text codes over to our Vonage team line so everyone can see them.
Nice.
Super. All right, I want to be respectful of the attendees' time. And so I'm going to actually skip down to the third poll question because we're at 52 minutes. So I want to skip down to the third poll question. And that way, if anybody does need to bounce, they can bounce. But I do want us to continue our conversation, but I do want to be respectful of people's time. So bear with me as actually, I don't have to move that. I can just push the poll up. How about that? So let me get this poll question here. And then again, if you need to bounce after this, go ahead. I'm going to actually go to this one here. So question is, what's your client's most common pain point with sales tax management? Options are cash flow management, reconciling and calculating the amount of sales tax due, lack of prioritization, missed deadlines, sales tax nexus, and just NA, not applicable. And like I said, we will continue the conversation, but I did want to make sure if anybody needs to go that you can get this third poll question in. And we'll leave this open for a few more seconds. So if you do need CPE, go ahead and participate. And I'll share this, and then David, you can make a comment on that, and then we'll get back into the core where we were. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out now. So reconciling and calculating the amount of sales tax dues, number 1, and cash flow management is number 2, and Nexus is number 3. Is that not counting the NA? Is that surprising, David, or is that about what you would expect?
I think from our clients, it's cash flow management is number 1. Yeah, in the brick and mortar space that we live in. I think reconcile, if you work with a lot of custom merchants who are managing sales tax online, reconcile and calculating obviously is a huge challenge. That's an Avalara solution. And just so people understand the difference between Davo and Avalara, Avalara is an e-commerce solution. We both work with data. They work with data from theoretically an invoice, somebody shipping from and shipping to, doing a tax calculation. In Davo's case, we work with brick and mortar. Our data comes from a point of sale. The point of sale is doing all the heavy lifting here of calculating the sales tax. Davo simply using that data to manage it. So.
Okay, super. All right, so let's move over to cloud storage. There's a gazillion options out there. And Liz, you mentioned earlier that nobody on your team uses the hard drive on their computer, right?
Correct.
How difficult was that to make that happen, to break the habit of, oh, it goes to the C drive?
So there's a couple of things that we did in order to, just aid in that that step. So when you're downloading any type of document from an email, instead of there being the default to go to your downloads, what we did is we made the default go to our virtual folder sharing. So for us, we use Box, and then we also use SharePoint. And we've got, a couple of the other ones that we really enjoy as well. But I think that the goal is to help your team in that step by doing things and going into the settings and looking at, what are the ways that they can download. So I definitely think that helps. The other thing that we were doing too is in our team meetings, we were going through and looking at C drives and kind of doing this little prize for, is your C drive clean? So, just these little goofy things that, any of these areas that we're all geeks. So if we can geek out over something and be like, oh my gosh, look at what you've got there. Or, oh my gosh, you're so clean. Those are all just fun little things that you can do.
Well, I will not tell you what is on my C drive, how full it is. It's not good. Not good at all.
Goal is that anybody who maybe might have access to a laptop or a device, that they wouldn't get any type of data, because the data is not stored on that device, which makes it a whole lot easier that if the device breaks, well, there's no data on it anyway. So essentially it's just a portal.
Gotcha. All right, so let's talk about data loss prevention insurance. Everybody loves to talk about insurance, right? Love insurance. Here, send me some paperwork. So how do you, again, speaking to clients and for your own firm, we kind of always have two conversations that we can go about. So Esther, tell us a little bit about your policies.
Okay, so the policy that I have is a section covering various cyber event costs, whether it's incident response, legal, forensic breach management, cybercrime, theft of personal funds, extortion, system damage, loss assessment costs, in other words, what it costs to get somebody to assess what my losses are. So, I just feel that it's really worthwhile to get that in your insurance, in your company insurance policy. I just do. I feel so much more secure.
And how long have you had that?
This is going on my 4th year, and because I just got the renewal form just yesterday, telling me what my premium was going to be, and it's worth it. It's just worth the peace of mind alone is worth it.
And is that something you talk to clients about?
Yeah, I do from time to time. It's not my main business, but when we are talking about things that are outside the core things of what I do, yeah, we do talk about insurance. And I tell them that I've got this. I think mine is with Lloyd's of London.
Oh, aren't you fancy? Right. All right. Then, unfortunately, we are running out of time. So I do want to wrap up. We'll touch on managed IT support. And Liz or Esther, one of you have more experience in managed IT support versus the other?
I think Liz does probably.
This is an area that has been my focus over the last couple of years and has really fostered a relationship. Somebody inside of the Q&A was talking about password management, and they were saying they were using Practice Protect. I'm a huge fan of Practice Protect. The other solution that's out there that we ended up using is Swissnet. And so lots of people know them as cloud storage for QuickBooks, but really they do managed IT as well. They've been doing it for the financial management sector for a long time. And so they're moving over into sharing with the accounting industry what all they're doing. So they do device configuration. I think that Martha, you asked me a question that said, what are we doing for our team whenever we're setting up tech? That's one of those areas that when you're using a solution like Swissnet, that you're able to say, go and set up that device for me. If that team member has their own device, what we do is then we say it's a partial managed device. If it's a device that we're providing, then we're able to put on there all of the apps that we want our team members to use. And then also that device then can be managed. If there is a virus, then they're notified right away. There's also even team training, like how do you navigate some emails and best practices. So managed IT support, I'm a big fan of.
Esther, do you have any experience in that at all? Or are you working on?
Very little. I've got to learn a lot from Liz.
Yeah. The extent of ours is what's it called? Geek Squad, but again, we're pretty small. I'm going to go ahead and throw this last poll question because Esther and Liz had worked on another topic that we're not going to be able to get to, but I'm going to put this poll up just in case anybody missed one of the other polling questions who is still on and does need them. And while I do that, I'm going to run through here and just do want to say thank you to all three of our speakers. To Liz, there's her contact information. Take a screenshot of that if you'd like to reach out and get in touch with her. Certainly want to say thank you to Esther as well. There's her info. Take a screenshot, reach out to her. And then I want to say thank you to David. And do want to encourage you, if you've got clients who are in that brick and mortar side of the business, whether it's restaurant, whether it's retail, reach out to David. There's his info. Schedule a demo with him to see how you can leverage Davo to help your clients grow and help. I would think, David, that if an accounting professional brings this into a client and helps them through what can be very difficult or solves a very difficult problem, that would make that client super sticky for the accounting professional. Have you seen that? Absolutely. We see it with our POS partners, and we see it with our accounting and tax professional partners. One thing I want to add is we do have an accounting partnership program. Please reach out to me. Happy to help get you set up on it. Lots of benefits to it, including some revenue sharing. Oh, I don't know if we've ever written about that. We need to, we'll circle back after this because we do, on occasion, we'll write about those programs just to kind of share that information. So we'll reach back out to you if we haven't written about it. Murph's on here somewhere. He's probably telling me. We wrote about that in 2021 on August 22nd. But we'll reach out, we'll circle back, I'll connect with Steph and see if we can get that done. So again, Thank you, Esther. Thank you, David. Thank you, Liz. Certainly appreciate your time and the wealth of information that you shared with us today. Everybody else, hopefully we'll see you at the next session, which kicks off at the top of the hour. And if not there, maybe in QuickBooks Connect next week. And just a heads up, we will be launching the nominations for the QuickBooks Pro Advisor of the Year and the Top 100 Pro Advisor in, well, I don't have a firm date yet, but sometime in the next week. So keep your eye on Insightful Accountant, social media, et cetera, et cetera. So thank you all. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.